That was interesting. Okay. So, lovely. So we're all familiar with what we do. So Phil's own inside. Actually, it's the background that's slanting down, not me. So I'm not going to fall off the chair. So just rub your hands and tap them over the face. So familiar routine. You always start the same way. This is just common all through the Tai Chi system. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. Side. Off your chest. Belly. And your legs. Feet out. Sit back. Just feel the weight of your body, mostly in the chair, of course, a little bit in your heels. Let your attention rest on your breathing posture. If there's any tightening or stiffening in, those are, of course, the areas that you want to, in particular, time to see as we go through the session. Bring your feet in. Tilt your pelvis forward slightly so you can feel a little bit of weight in your feet. Just feel how you sort of settle into this posture. Think about the basic elements. On the front, you see these lines from shoulders to hips to knees to ankles. There's some variation in that, of course, but not too much. Hips sinking into the chair, your weight flowing down through your chair, through your legs. Giving a more open, spacious feeling to the upper part of your body. And as you let go a little bit in your shoulder back, those big muscles of the upper body, a growing awareness of this structure in the strength. To just recognize what it is begins to hold you up once you're no longer sort of stiff and tight. Head just sitting nicely on top of your spine, and shoulders. Your hands resting down. Just feel that your arms and your hands are quite heavy. We don't always appreciate that. We're often quite tight in the shoulders and sort of lifting the arms. We don't really get a sense for the full weight of our arms. That's quite useful when we come to the movements, so that we put the correct sort of effort into moving them. And then just slowly turning your head. Smooth movement through your neck. Indeed, you want the movement to be everywhere in your body. Just gradually feeling any tightness there, almost being massaged away. And then the same idea with your shoulders, but again, just a moment that your elbows hang down so you can feel the weight of them, and then circling around. And going forwards. And down by your sides. Around. Again, as your arms hang there, just feel that they're quite heavy. And just soften your elbows a little bit. So there's a slight bend in your elbows, but try and resist the urge to sort of lift your hands up. It's actually very difficult to do in my experience. The teacher in Tai Chi can used to sometimes say, imagine you're carrying heavy bags in both hands. And then winding around. And back the other way. See, you can also add in this idea of wounds with water. Again, that begins to change how you move. Let your hands rest, easing forwards. And push back. Just turn a little. Just remind yourself of that stronger feeling, that quality of inner strength. So you keep in touch with it, you keep up there again, sort of thing. And you'll find that gradually it's almost like the movement itself begins to source itself from there. So kind of deepening both of your awareness and the routes that the body takes, and the way the routes to move and so on. So going around. Feel how your weight moves a little bit, side to side, front to back. And then go the other direction. Again, feel your weight move. And that's a very subtle change. But eventually what we want is to initiate the movement by making that change happen. Inevitably, we start the other way. We move our head and we notice these more subtle details. Part of noticing is begin to work better. And so they're the ones that begin to lead the movement, not the other way around. And then, let your sitting position, step out, push the foot a little into the ground, and stay. So like you're trying to leave your foot in on soft stand. So moderate how far you're stepping to allow you to do that. On the other side. Okay. So some people say to me, when you begin advanced exercises, and my response is always, you've done it. Yeah. What helps is to develop, I mean, there are other exercises out there, some of them more complex and so on and so forth, but the real thing is in the mind training and in the, if you like, the internalization of the movement. Any of the movements can be done in lots of different ways. So we could do this one, for instance, by just moving our head and shoulders around. And now I'm just moving my head and shoulders around. And it's kind of okay. Yeah. But if I pay attention, as I move my head and shoulders around, I can feel a change. Left foot, right hip, left hip, halfway between left hip and left foot, and then into the left foot, 2/3 of the way along from one foot to another. You break it right down, centimetre by centimetre, millimetre by millimetre. And then one day you'll find that you're doing it, and it's like, that's what's driving the movement, and the quality of the movement changes. So one of the things that can really block that process is moving the arms too much. So it's really important to keep the arms up, which is difficult, because what you see mostly, what I've been Tai Chi, is somebody moving their arms. They bend their knees and they move their arms. As experienced players, you can look beyond that though. But if you insist on moving your arms, that will occupy your attention. So we describe the arms in Tai Chi as being quiet. And that's quite an interesting way of thinking of it. Because imagine you're in a room with lots of people and you're listening to somebody with a very quiet voice. And on the other side of the room is somebody with a really booming voice shouting out. You wouldn't be able to hear what the person you're listening to is saying. And it's the same thing if you overuse your arms. So for instance, when we do fisherman cast a net, see where my arms are? Your arms are coming up here, they're shouting at you. And it'd be much more difficult to feel the kind of things that I'm talking about. So go back to this first exercise of rocking the weight forwards and backwards. Just hold your hands. Just let them rest on your legs, hold them palm up. Notice that they're moving. When you go forward, your hands get pushed forwards. When you go back, they get pulled back. You're not trying to do anything with your hands. You're just letting them be pulled and pushed. Now raise your hands a little bit, and when you feel the momentum from that push reaching your elbows, just straighten your elbows a bit. This is what I sometimes say to people: imagine you're carrying a tray of drinks and you don't want to spill them. And what you'll start to feel is a lot of movement inside the body and inside your arms and your fingers as much as anywhere else. But from the outside, it looks as though hard thing is happening, and that's how Tai Chi should be done. So see if you can keep that process, that feeling in your whole body, going into pushing past the neck. Good. Every now and then, just remind yourself that you want the arms to feel very fluid. And then you imagine the ball behind your arms so that as you come back, your hands just naturally slide over the ball. And then this time, pigeon spreads its wings. Again, surprisingly, for such an expansive movement, there's really, if you look at how far my hands are traveling, it really isn't much further than they were sort of out to the side in Fisherman Class Net. But there is quite a sort of resonance here in the chest and the ribs, if you can get your attention to it. One more time. And then pushing away. One more time. No hands assisted. One more time. Going forwards. Turn your hands out. Once again, when you go back here, as your hands drop down, feel the weight of your arms and just rotate them. And that will just help to bring your hands up in front of your hips for the push. One more time. Now try and make a nice smooth transition into the vertical movements. Same connections within your body. A little bit more difficult to move without straining your arms because the temptation is to lift your arms. Remember, it's your feet and your hips pushing your arms and your hands upwards. Feel your hips pressing down into your chair as your arms and your upper body expand upwards. Feel that as the if you like, the starting movement. If there is such, I mean, the movements are cyclical, so it's hard to say where they start, but that's a really important thing to notice, that in fact your arms won't move until you've got that sense of a push through your hips, push downwards through your hips. One more time. And the wild goose. Once more. Part in the clouds. Now change again. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Familiarity with the movements and the routines will mean that you're able to make these changes more smoothly and with a greater awareness of what that change involves. What the contrast is from one movement to another, even from one side to another, or one part of a movement, the upward push compared with the downward pull, for instance. Notice, as always, how important, notice the significance of what happens in the mind, that the clarity of thought, the awareness of what we're doing. It's very determinant in how well we do in Tai Chi. So now change into both hands. Doing that lengthening through your back, in. Put the turn in gently, reminding yourself of the significance of that center part of your body, guiding your arms, other things as well. Remember, the turn is a very gentle movement. It doesn't have to be a big movement. Get quite a lot of response from your arms. Let's do one more round of this. And now, scooping the sea, looking at the sky. After this one, in this position, twist your hands and sit back and forwards to the bottom of the time gears. Once more on this side. Change again. Now take a few moments just to sit back again, recover your position, posture. Take a couple of slow, gentle breaths. Now going into that forwards and backwards rocking movement again. Do a couple of rounds of pushing apart the neck. If we can get this right, it sets the pattern, the feel of movement, all the exercises. But remember, you're not trying to deliberately get your arms to a particular position. We want to swing from the shoulders, we want the momentum, the energy to move them to a particular point. Not too far, not too close. And then as you go forwards, turn a little. So you swing, one hand up, hitting the ball in front of the shoulder. So now we need to bring a little bit more awareness, a little bit more intent into the arms and hands. That's a very delicate, very subtle process, because if you overdo it, you'll instantly lose those connections. So what we want to do is just use the image of the movement. This is where being familiar with the movement is a great advantage, because you've got memory of where it felt before. The ball in front of the shoulder. One on each side. And then swing your arms forward and backwards. So it's the same movement in the rest of your body. You just change your intent. And that should be sufficient to move from one movement to another, particularly when you know the sequence well, when you know the movements. It's more difficult, obviously, with an unknown movement, although you can do it. It can be quite a good way of picking up that movement, but it's not always possible. So sometimes stuff is being literally picked on, if you like. A little bit of movement of your weight, going a little bit forwards here. And then think about your weight. When you turn, so I turn this way, I want my weight to go into this leg. I'm turning to the left, moving my weight to the right. I come back to the middle, I turn to the right, I move my weight. So what that should do is enable us to raise the other foot. This dragonfly skims the water. You can either do this, you could lift your knee, and then if that's comfortable, lift your toes. Or you could do that, you lift your knees and then raise the foot and even rotate it a little bit. Be careful with that, that's quite a strong movement on your hip and your knee. It's worth doing, it's worth building up to it, but you don't want to do too many to start off with. Dragonfly skims the water. Good. And again, just come back and rest. Try not to let your attention drift off. Keep the focus of attention very much in your body, your overall posture, movements, sensations within your body. Very easy to get distracted by noise outside or you're doing something that you've got supposed to do at some point. Those kind of things. Just gently bring your attention back each time. And then go once again back to the rocking movement. This time, turn page weight first of all into one foot, and then back to the middle, and then into the other foot. Again, hands in front of you. And this is again how your hands move with you. And then going into the movement part in the wild horse bend, you go across, pushing your arm around, so you're just reaching out with a cup of tea or something, come back, hold the ball, move across to your opposite side. Now your top hand is just going to push straight down. So again, our arms are a little bit more active, of course, but still with that quiet quality. Imagine you're trying to stretch out an elastic band. And just allowing it to contract. So part of the article is one more time on each side. So you finish in the ball holding position and just rotate so that you hand out the side of the ball and turn from the center. I'm not sticking to this, but again, with a quieter approach in your arms, not too much movement in your arms, see what else you notice in terms of movement through your body. And back the other way. And once again, rest. Again. Tapping over the face. And neck. I do. Side. And the upper part of the chest. Stand. That same awareness, of course, should guide us in standing movement. It's the thing that links everything really in Tai Chi. One of my teachers, somebody I worked with a few times, and I also worked a lot with one of the students. Somewhere in the book he wrote, he had a diagram, had a circle, and around the outside he had things like the martial aspect and push hands and movement and so on, with just various aspects of the art. And in the middle of the circle, he had his teaching training as the thing. So we've done this exercise many times now. The one where we went forward and backwards. So come back to it and see what you notice in terms of how your body moves, what your body does as you go forwards, as you go backwards. Are there any changes to take notice of? And always we need to be aware that the body will make these changes. If we can become familiar with them, we enhance them. I sometimes think of awareness, that's being awareness of what's going on. Looking with a shine around. You just know more about what's going on, and you can make better use of it. Bring your hands out to your sides. And then push down. change to wild goose. Remember, you're not lifting your arms, it's your legs and your hips doing the movement. Just trust that your hands will do the correct thing, and then parting the hands. Good. 1 foot forwards, transferring your weight. And again, as you become more familiar and more experienced with these movements, I want you to be able to follow each position. So it's not just, oh, you're in one foot, you're in the other. But can you notice when you're sort of a quarter of the way along, half the way along, 3/4 of the way along, all the way along, and so on and so forth? If you can think in terms of the percentage of the weight, you want to, you go into your back foot, you've got 70% there, 30% in the front leg. When you go forwards, can you notice when you get to 28 or 27 in the front leg, then 25, then 20, and so on and so forth? And then raising your toes, heel. Try on the other side. Transferring your weight. And then step in. And shake. Okay. Have your left foot forwards. And then Fisherman cast a net. Sink into your back foot and turn to your left. The wind blows the willows. And then if you're comfortable with this, and as always, don't force yourself. Step in, put the toes down, set yourself here. The back foot in. Okay, now change over. Have your right foot forwards. Same thing. Fisherman cast a net. Those willows. And it is good. To the chair. Lovely. Thank you very much, as always, everybody. So just coming back to sitting, give yourself a few moments once again to find your posture. Your hands come to your sides, best tiger. One more time. And rest. Lovely. That went very quickly. I hope I didn't miss anything out or rush anybody on that. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining in, and keep well and safe, and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Bye-bye for now. Can't see you. You can see my hand. Lovely. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye.